Louder! What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Pilot Parley, your guide to TV pilots and so much more. This is your host, TJ Bowser, and joining me is my best friend, some call him my doppelganger, Mr. Brody Kane.
Howdy ho!
You may know us from Lights Camera Exploitation, the TJ Bowser Power Hour, or Gore and More, or a plethora of projects that we work on. But we are here today to talk about TV pilots, and one in particular, and that is Renegade from 1992, episode name Renegade, with a runtime of 44 minutes, premiered September 19th, 1992. Brody, let's get into it.
Hell to the motherfucking yeah.
So, this pilot was directed by Ralph Hemmicker, who also did Silk Stockings, Once Upon a Time, and Blue Bloods. Cinematographer James R. Bagdonas, who worked on series such as Hunter, Lewis and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, and Modern Family. Ooh. Writers Stephen J. Cannell, who also stars in this, who wrote series such as 10 Speed and Brown Shoe, 21 Jump Street, and Silk Stockings. Starring Lorenzo Lamas as Reno Raines, or his alter ego Vince Black, Branscombe Richmond as Bobby Sixkiller, Kathleen Kinnamont as Cheyenne Phillips, Grand L. Bush as Harry Wells, Donald Gibb as Cletus Hogg Adams, Art LaFleur as Lieutenant Barrel, DePriest Brescia as Valley Prentice, Stephen J. Cannell as Lieutenant Donald Dutch Dixon. Brody, I know you've been itching to read this.
Ooh. Reno Raines is a cop who denounced another cop to defend justice and was subsequently framed by not-so-good cops. Before he can prove his innocence, a murder attempt on his life leaves his fiancée in a vegetative condition. He becomes a Vincent Black, a man on the run for his life, his freedom, and his revenge, a renegade cop.
So, we know Lorenzo. Most people know him from Grease, and he did that other show we talked about on our Snake Eater episode of LCE. Falcon Crest, right. He's awesome in this. He's fucking awesome in this. And to see him have this opportunity is just fantastic. So, Brody, Renegade. Motherfucking Renegade. We've talked about it. We've mentioned it many times on other content that we've done together. It's a show we both love. Did I introduce you to this?
I had seen it all over social media for quite some time, and I was like, I don't really know if I really want to fucking watch that. And it was more so that I actually got into, the Snake Eater franchise, and then digging a little bit deeper with Lorenzo. And I think that me and you were able to figure out that that he was the guy that was in Renegade in the end because of our additional information and that we would find for LCE. And then I was like, you know what, I'm definitely going to give it a shot now. And then I think the same day I watched the first episode, you were watching it as well, and you're like, oh, no, we definitely have to do something on this in the future. And I was like, fucking sign me up, because I am signed, sealed, delivered every day of the motherfucking week. I'm glad we're able to fucking finally do this, because I love Renegade so much. Haven't finished all the seasons yet, but I'm really definitely keen to fucking talk about it.
Fucking A. So we're going to get into the little discussion portion of the show here. This is definitely going to be a little bit more different than the other shows that you've listened to from us. This is going to be a lot more condensed, more focusing on the discussion portion of it. So bear with us as we work our ways and find our way with this new show. So Brody, the song, the intro montage, as we know from a little bit of pre-production research that we did, that the intro was actually cut to Bon Jovi's Dead or Alive originally to pitch to networks. So whenever you see, I can't remember the guy's name who did the music for this. I think it's Brian something. He actually had to do new music to the same montage that was used for Bon Jovi's Dead or Alive. And you can kind of tell, but I think that the music and the montage we get, and including the awesome shot of Reno dumping the gallon of water on himself for no reason, is incredible.
That is just the sexual chemistry for the women out there.
Yeah.
And maybe men.
Yeah. No, John, he did do Playgirl.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm still waiting for that Playgirl magazine, mate. But yeah, absolutely. And but I kind of feel that this is a lot better with the montage we get, because it's a bit more fast paced. and especially with the music and themes and that. But what really fucking sold me was before even the music starts, and I'm going to read out the lyrics for you in the voice. He was a cop and a good cop at his job, but he committed the ultimate sin and testified against other cops gone bad. Cops that tried to kill him, but got the woman he loved instead. Framed for murder, now he prowls the Badlands. An outlaw hunting outlaws, a bounty hunter, a renegade.
And then the music kicks in.
Fucking, if that doesn't fucking get you amped before each episode, I don't know what the fuck will.
And what's surprising is that this was originally made just for syndication and wasn't picked up by a network. Later it was, in the later seasons, I believe it was aired on USA Network. And we'll talk about that in our afterwards section, which we'll get to. But this show, definitely a vehicle for Lorenzo Lamas. I really... he's in Baywatch, and the intro of this has some Baywatch-esque shots in it, but I think that's just a product of the time and what was hot, because if you go back and watch other series at the time, and we'll get into them later on and later down the show in future episodes, but a lot of these intros had the same vibe to them, if you remember, Brody.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely correct. It's just that 90s product of its time, and like you said, the majority of the American TV shows of that era definitely had to have like that montage. Like they were always borrowing something else from someone else, from what I could recall as a kid. But I think that's what creates that awesome nostalgia about it. And I never really grew up watching Renegade as a kid down here, but we did have other shows like Baywatch and that, so I can definitely see where you were coming from with that. But I just love it how they were able to layer the montage of Raines, on a Harley with the outlaw music and just Raines shooting cunts. Like, there's even a shot of him for no fucking reason holding like a Gatling gun running. Yeah. And we don't get to see that in the show, but it was just so much happening in that it was just going to sell the viewer every day of the week because it's just over the top action. And like you said, he's really familiar with playing a character like this, having done like even the first two Snake Eaters leading into this, and then he would do Snake Eater 3.
And he's done TV prior to this. I believe he was actually in Baywatch prior to this.
Yes.
And like we mentioned, he was in Falcon Crest as well. So he kind of had a little bit more, but I don't think he was really the center of attention on a TV show like he was prior to this.
No.
Standout performance in this series, or this pilot more specifically, I want to say Lorenzo, but I really find myself loving Bobby Sixkiller as the series goes on. I absolutely love how that character progresses, but more importantly, the way that this character is shown in this pilot. He's shown as a very strong character, very smart-witted, and just some of the banter you see between him and Donald Dixon, that the Donald Dixon character is just awesome. I love the line about George Foreman in the grill, how he can make millions, and on the same day Donald Trump can lose millions. That's America. It's cool. It's unique to see that sort of character. It's interesting. Brody?
No, you're right. Yeah, and another thing to add to that, even like the chemistry between him and Lorenzo by the end of the episode, you really feel like they have a special bond, especially after the events that they've just gone through. So the character development for the two characters, or stand out the most, is obviously Lorenzo and him, and they flush that out extremely well in this. Like you said, they just give him this like quick-witted humor, but also he can stand on his own as a strong character. I personally went with Lorenzo because I am biased, and
of course,
Lorenzo. And like I was saying, like they really flush out his character in this, and obviously the show's focused on him, so you really have to and push that forward for the rest of the season. And he's just a broken man with nothing to lose, and he's quite familiar with that character, having played a lot of action roles in the past. But he's quite humorous at times as well, and that works. He's got that dry sense of humor that we talk about in Snake Eater 2. Yes. I think he brings that over from them films. Really, elaborates on it a little bit more. He just stands out as somewhat a humble leader, and really knows how to grace the screen with his presence.
I will have to say, Lorenzo, I think, lacks in one scene in particular, and you can tell me if you agree, when he's talking about his girlfriend to the Kathleen Kinnemont character at the fire. I feel like that scene, his acting was weaker, and they just laid music over top to kind of make it more effective.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because he's definitely... See, that's the thing. He's definitely really laced and knows how to be this action star. But when it gets to the emotional aspect of things, like I don't think he's really quite familiar with bringing the emotional
Dialing
side.
it in.
Dialing it into something like this, because in his previous films, he hasn't really had to deal with anything like
He's
this.
just been go,
Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lone Ranger, one-man army, and then you add this extra layer on top. It's an interesting thing, though, because he should have been able to really drive that home, having sitting there with his wife. That was his wife at the time. So, they really should have been able to feed off each other, and he should have been able to channel that with her, thinking of her in mind. If I was to lose you, like really dig deep. But at the same time, the direction from the director himself probably, maybe just sort of said, get comfortable with it. Who knows, really?
Or just something
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. Yep, absolutely.
And you kind of touched on a little bit the relationship that we see early on with Reno and Bobby, and kind of how it starts with him getting that contract from Donald, and then him quickly learning, not really quickly learning, but over the course of the episode, learning that things aren't what they seem, and this is actually what happened. But he had to go through all these series of misfortune events and really just come out the hard way and learn the hard way that Reno's innocent. And I love the way they do it. I think now's the time to mention the Cletus Hog Adams character, who you might know him as Ogre from the Revenge of the Nerds series. He is fantastic in this. He looks like a bad motherfucker. I'm sure Brody would agree.
Absolutely.
As he says, the graffiti on his arms definitely helps with that. But yeah, it was really cool. And it's funny because in the movie we just reviewed for LCE, there was another Revenge of the Nerds alumni with Lorenzo, and that was Speedboat and Lamar, who also played Lamar in Revenge of the Nerds. So just another callback there, a little comparison. Brody?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember Hog from Bloodsport. I'm pretty sure he was in Bloodsport with Van Damme.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was actually interesting to see him on this. And that's the cool thing about the show. That's what I love, how they introduce a lot of these B-movie actors. So,
yes,
throughout each episode, it's always fun to see who they're going to bring in. But, yeah, no, he actually did a reasonably good job. I mean, it's what you expect from an actor like him, like a B-movie action villain. But he definitely brings it all. But, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, you bring that up about, like, the Revenge of the Nerds has a little tie into llamas. Yeah. It's like it keeps haunting him. He can't escape it.
Gonna see Carradine pop up soon. Fuck it, eh?
Get on the ground, Raines.
Booger rocks up. That'd be funny interaction. But speaking of Hog, which kind of will transition to our next little topic here, the scene when we first introduced a Hog in the prison and he's being released, and the camera pans up to show the dirty cop standing above him through like a translucent like walkway.
Yep.
Super fucking cool. Fucking love it.
That was a really good shot. Absolutely. It's probably one of the more cinematic shots in this. Because I was going to choose that, but I will let you elaborate on that a little bit more.
It's just so well done. It's just a cool way to show, like, here's the bad guy, and then to show like the even badder guys just looming above. It's just it's gnarly, and it definitely establishes that these are the baddies. And the way that they frame the Donald Dixon character at the beginning, and how the way it goes towards the ends is he starts off in the shadows, and he's kind of revealed towards the end to be the bad guy. And I love it. I love, especially whenever he's sitting in the car and he's half in the shadows. I feel like there's more into that it's actually a stylistic choice that they tried to make, and I want to believe that. Brody?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's either that it was deliberate or obviously accidental. Yeah. But yeah, I completely agree with you there for that shot. I think it was absolutely, I was actually like, holy fuck, they tried to do really something cinematic with it, considering everything else is pretty basic in this. Even some of the action scenes didn't look as good as that shot.
Dude.
And old mate just stood out. He's just doing fuck all, just looking at the camera. It's like, yeah, right.
Can we talk about the staging of that fucking chase scene of Bobby through the tunnel, and Lorenzo just happens to be at the end of the tunnel on the bike waiting?
Bobby, like, if you were really fucking smart enough, there's about 10 bikies chasing you.
Didn't they just run past Reno?
No, But no, they follow Bobby to the other side of the tunnel, and then he runs out the other side. Wouldn't you think to fucking run to the other side of the tunnel and block him off, and then beat the fuck out of him inside the fucking tunnel?
And if they did, they would have seen Reno right there waiting for him.
Yeah. Reno's on his bike. I wonder what's going to happen here. Let's just chase Bobby. They only have themselves to blame. The bikies are fucking numbskulls in this. But,
also, why does Kathleen Kinnemont randomly shoot the shotgun out the window when the fight starts?
I have no idea.
That's not helping.
Dick energy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just let off need more action. All right, Kathleen, grab that shotgun and fire a blank for fuck's sake.
I like how she's essentially established as like, if you need me, call me. This is going to be my role.
Yeah, more like if you want to me.
Oh.
But, yeah. But no, I personally went I went for my favourite scene. Mm-hmm. I went for Raines and Bobby luring the bikers into somewhat this ambush or trap. This is after our little discussion of the stupid tunnel thing. And we get that cool shot of Bobby boxing them in just by walking down.
Oh, badass, yes.
Boom, boom, rapidly as he approaches them. It's just...
And they all get down.
Yeah, they all get down. And speaking of big dick energy, that's pure 90s big dick energy. That's fucking badass. Just got this mullet blowing in the fucking air. Like, it's just sex appeal. That's all it is. Yeah. And it's just badass as all fuck.
How hot is Reno's fiance in the opening? Holy shit.
Now, she is quite exquisite. And you're talking about Baywatch themes there earlier.
Yeah. Fuck.
Those shots of them on the beach is nothing but...
How corny was the title reveal? With the surfboard. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Bit on the nose, as you would say.
Absolutely. I mean, not only did we get that, then we get the fucking title card. So
right.
What the fuck is that for? Wasted. Did you talk about your favorite shot?
I talked about my shot because it was the pan of the camera going up.
Sorry,
I don't think I talked about my favorite scene, but I'd almost have to agree with you with the Bobby doing the trap. Again, snake eater contrast, doing the trap and then like kind of trapping them with the shotgun. It's awesome. I really like the scene where Bobby's trying to tell him the story and Reno just like interrupts him. He's like, I gotta pee, and then kicks the shit out of him.
That's fucking what a diversion that is.
I know. I gotta pee.
I think for favorite shot, I love the close-up shot of Bobby cocking the shotgun, and then it's like a close-up of Bobby's hand cocking the shotgun, and then it cuts to like a mid-wide shot of Bobby and Raines center frame.
Yeah,
with this sunset shining through the landscape and their guns, and Bobby's like, "Let's do this, friend." And it's only for a couple of seconds, but it's just like probably another one of those cinematic shots because it actually looks really fucking good for the TVs.
I like how it's clearly a TV show because the bikers clearly set up that they're going to the Kathleen Kinnemont character, and they even go as far as ripping her shirt so her tits are out, like her bra's out, right? Reno pulls up the goggles and he's like, "Nah, she's fine. They're not doing anything to her." That's all he does, and Bobby takes that as, my sister's fine amongst all these crazy fucking bikers. Like, she's just sitting there tied up with her tits out, just like, she's fine.
Imagine if you're one of the extras on set and you actually had to do that in front of Lorenzo. Do you approach him about that and go, "Do you really want me to do this to your wife?" He's probably like, "Yeah, just fucking do whatever. I don't care." Like, how does that come about? That's what I want to fucking know. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of interesting choices in this, but that's the 90s for you.
Yeah. Again, this isn't the most perfect series ever, but fuck, do we love it. And I think that this is kind of where the production quality of the series kind of starts to show itself. It's not the highest, but it's also not the lowest. I'd say somewhere mid-tier. The editing could be better, but I think that can be said with most 90s shows in hindsight. I think we've talked a little bit about some of the questionable staging questions and choices that they made. Some of the shots are really cool. Like we mentioned, there's some artistic attempts there, but like also Brody mentioned, it's few and far between, and it's pretty stock standard. I think the shots of the desert are pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the landscape shots in general,
Yeah.
It's definitely got a bit of flair about it with that sunlight. I don't know if that was just an accident due to scheduling shooting issues or whatever it was, but haven't worked on a couple of sets. I know that sometimes a director will just get the DP to shoot off and just film a bit of stock footage, of the landscapes and that, just for inserts and that. So I dare say if you're working in an environmental setting like that, it's definitely going to fall into your lap any day of the week.
Yeah, that's right. You worked on an actual TV show not long ago, so you'd have good insight on this.
Yeah, and especially in the desert too. So there was a couple of really good shots in that. But no, I completely agree with you. The editing is probably the thing that lets it down really the most. But it's just your very basic 90s production quality. Yes. They just had to probably pump these episodes out on a minimal budget. Like you said, there was no studio behind it. It was just sort of a
finance thing. Let's get this and pitch it.
Yeah, and they really had to obviously rely on actual locations instead of set pieces and that. And there's nothing really.
Even the biker hangout, like both times they get the hog character. It's mildly in buildings that are open or just run down. Especially in the second time, whenever he goes to retrieve the Kathleen Kinnamont character, the Cheyenne Phillips. She's just sitting out in the open, and all the other ones and all the bikers are just passed out on the ground. Like, I don't know. Do bikers just sleep on the ground like that, or who knows?
I think their excuse for that was that they had a big party the night before and just got absolutely fucking hammered, and then it was like, okay.
And you think they would have learned the first time that this happens, but whatever.
These buggies are the worst in the world. I don't know who the fuck they go under, but they're just shit.
Which allows us to talk about the series premise. So it's set up that Reno is now teamed up with Bobby in Cheyenne for their bounty hunting business, and that Bobby gets a certain percentage of each bounty, and that Reno takes his cut and Bobby uses it to pay for his girlfriend that's stuck in this vegetative condition. Now, at the same time, Reno is getting investigated by the cops for 2 murders. A cop and the shooting of his own girlfriend. So how long can you hold this investigation off for? How long can he stay on the run? And how many bounties can you show him executing? And we'll get into that, how many they actually do show you. And I think that ultimately limits the longevity of a show like this, because you have to show progress of the story. And I think that kind of limits it, especially whenever you have to come to a conclusion like this. And we'll talk about how they kind of do it. But Brody, what do you think about the premise and the setup here in the pilot?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I think that there was a huge audience for this type of show even throughout the 90s, and obviously action was a big thing back then. So you have this developed into a TV series, and you're getting a lot of over the top action, which is like, it was kind of a big thing back then. It was like one film would do an action film, and then you really had to try and one up that action film sort of thing. I kind of find it was just a progressive thing throughout the years, whether it was a movie or TV series. But for me, really, it's the characters themselves and the chemistry they have that really gets flushed out. It's great to see unfold throughout the series, and we get a lot of future exploitative stars in this, so it's always fun to see and who is on what episodes as a surprise, really. But you said it really good there before, with the progression of
with the way that we see like Reno progress. We can only see him progress so far whenever he's being investigated and his girlfriend's stuck in the vegetative condition, because they can only be so long. That investigation can only be held off for so long.
Absolutely. Yes, that's what, sorry. I had a fucking mental fart then. But yes, the progression of that story alone really helps drive this for another fucking 5 seasons, which is something really actually, I mean, for something so simple of a premise.
I think it ultimately leads to the detriment of the season, though. Just not to interrupt you, but like I think it also can lead to it as a detriment, because it kind of also can get stale at times.
Oh, absolutely. And it all depends on the writing of each episode.
Yes.
Like there is only so much you can really do. Yeah, yeah. The first episode, it really gives us an idea with what we're dealing with, but then each episode adds an extra layer, I find, for the next episode.
Yes.
And by the end of the series, we've got to try and, tie up all these loose ends. And then when we don't get that in the final episode, then that's when season 2 will begin and start trying to tie
And I
up all these
believe
other
Kinemont leaves
roads.
before the series is even over. I believe her character just leaves and they just write her off because I think her and Lorenzo get a divorce.
Ooh, that's a bit rough.
Yeah, so
I didn't even know that.
yeah, like I said, it's weird progression throughout the series, and we'll kind of talk about that, and we'll talk about my favorite episode later. But series themes, there's clearly strong themes of masculinity through this, with Reno, Bobby. I feel like women take a backseat in our view, like most 90s things. They're hypersexualized here, like Brody and I talked about the opening, super Baywatch. I mean, she's a beautiful woman, but I think that characters for like the Kathleen Kinemont character, I don't think that we get a lot of really focus on it. But that also could be because the Kathleen Kinemont isn't really that great of an actress at that time. We talked about this in the Snake Eater 2 episode. She's there, but that's what it seems like. She's just there because Lorenzo's there. That's his wife. And I believe in the production notes, it is that she was cast as this because Lorenzo didn't want to be away from his wife because their marriage was already on the rocks, and him being away filming a TV show would have made it worse. So he kind of brought her along. So once again, we find this situation where she's just here and we're getting like this middle tier, maybe even slightly less than that delivery of lines.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. I do agree with you, but I'm glad you brought that up because the majority of his filmography throughout the mid 80s to the mid 90s is basically him and her working together on all these other films like Final Impact. I don't know if she's in The Swordsman or whatever, but she's definitely in the Snake Eater franchise. From the second. Don't know if she's in the third. I think she might be in the third. But you hit the nail on the head there. You can definitely tell that throughout his filmography from when they divorced previously to that, they're together working all the time on all these things together. And yeah, it does kind of feel that she's just there in this TV series and she doesn't really give much of a dynamic performance. She's just really this sort of stale, like I'm here to sort of help out.
So it's kind of hard to tell the themes whenever that character could be played by somebody else and those lines could have been delivered better.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't really want to say because it just sounds bad, but she's very mediocre at best. Yeah. Even in the Snake Eater, she just sort of like pops up and it's like, okay.
You ain't no Cynthia Rothrock.
Two fucking lines. Yeah, exactly. I think the Sheila at the fucking start of the episode had more.
Agreed.
Had more of a
100%.
of a chemistry. Yeah,
definitely have some noirish themes throughout the episode, especially in the reference shot of the Donald Dixon character sitting in the car. He's always framed in a noirish sense because they kind of keep him in the shadows because he's also a dirty cop. So you kind of want to do that. I definitely like the whole undercover, not undercover thing, what we see later on with the Vince Black stuff. I mean, Reno's not a cop anymore, right?
No, he sort of goes rogue as a bounty hunter, pretty much.
Right, yeah. But yeah, heavy noirish themes and masculinity is probably the best way to describe this series. But yeah, rating. Brody, how would you rate this out of 5 devilishly handsome dudes riding a motorcycle through the desert?
I was thinking about this yesterday and I was like, I don't want to be too biased about it. So yeah, basically this is nothing but a nostalgia fucking ride for me. And yeah, the themes you summed up were absolutely a nail on the fucking head. The exploitative themes throughout this that we're really familiar with. I mean, this is my bread and butter every day of the goddamn week. So the rating for this is I'm gonna go with a 3.4.
I'll agree with you. I'll say 3.4 out of 5 is fair for this.
Yep.
It's not premium, but it's definitely better than average. And I think the Reno character and the Bobby performances alone make this pilot super watchable.
110%. Abso-fucking-lutely.
So a little afterwards here, this series would go on to do 5 seasons, 110 episodes from 1992 to 1997, and would even feature an attempted spin-off in the season 2 finale for the Carrick O'Quinn character, which never came to pass. Again, this series only ran 5 seasons and only got picked up for its last season. That premise that we mentioned earlier did not hold up as well as we would like it to, but like we said, there's only so much longevity something like that has. It definitely has a detriment to the strength of the series overall, but it is what it is. We can appreciate it now. I believe FilmRise has the rights to the series, and all of them are available on YouTube and or Tubi TV. And I believe a recently released DVD box set was dropped from a company named Visual Entertainment, but don't quote me on that. It's probably over $100, but it was released earlier this year. Brody, any final thoughts on 1992's Renegade?
Renegade, a very underrated gem of a TV show. If you have not seen it, definitely go out and suss it and see for yourself, or take our fucking word for it.
Yeah.
Because we highly enjoy it. And if you're here listening to us, there is a reason for that. And I will just say, the amount of people that I've actually told about this to give it a watch, they've actually started watching it and they're enjoying it, or they're rewatching it and they're just like, the fucking nostalgia I had for this TV show, oh my God, they couldn't even believe it. It was just rushing back to them. So yeah, if you like exploitative themes, your B-movie, action, whatever it is, over the top stuff, this is a fun ride for you.
So I think this series is kind of like when you eat a Cheez-It, right? You can't just have one, and you just can't watch one episode, because when you watch it, you want to keep seeing more of Reno and Bobby's continuing adventures, especially all the weird situations they have to get themselves into doing this bounty hunting gig. And that lends itself to one of my favorite episodes, is Reno getting into this like martial arts death match thing. And it's like a multi-episode arc. So they put effort into that story and it pays off. And that's much later in the series. So go check that out if you want, but I highly recommend that. But like we mentioned earlier, the premise and ultimately led to the downfall of everything, but it's so. But I think that's all we have for this episode of Pilot Parley. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. This has been the Pod Boss, TJ Bowser, signing off.
This is your doppelganger Kangabanger all the way from the land down motherfucking under, saying, I will catch you mother lickers next time.
Look, Mr. Raines, you signed up with me to bring in felons for cash, not personal vendettas.
A modern-day bounty hunter.
All you need to know is it's taken all my self-control to keep from dumping you right now.
Driven by his past, charged with a murder he didn't commit.
Reno Raines, wanted for murder.
You're being set up, man.
Lorenzo Lamas is the Renegade. Justice is his only reward.
Little backstory here of why we're doing this. Brody and I really wanted an excuse to talk about TV pilots, and we really don't have one through LCE, but there's some times where Nick's not available and Brody and I are, and we want to still make use of that time to do content, and it gives us an excuse to explore things like the Renegade pilot or the Twin Peaks pilot or X-Files or stuff like that. It's a way for us to continue to have conversations about stuff that we're passionate about and create content that we enjoy doing. And I think that that's what's more important to us at the end of the day. And talking about this stuff is just fun anyway.
Following's for adults only.
Don't be lonely. Why be alone? Cat got the tongue, cat got the bone. Let's play. I'm all alone. Pick up the phone, cat got the tongue.
Don't be lonely. Talk live to your special lady tonight. International long-distance rate supply as low as 50 cents a minute. Adults only. By L&B Media.
Pick up the phone. Cat got your tongue?